Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to another recording slash live stream of Hearthstone. Today is May 11th and we've done 2 recordings so far and we made a decent amount of progress, but I kind of need to speed up if I can to play minions that cost 5 or more and win with the rogue or warrior 3 more times, because having started late, having messed up by scheduling things, I almost certainly will never schedule another live stream that unless I come back and look at the statistics and there's actually many more viewers than the about 30 viewers that I get in the first 24 hours or so of a live stream. So if it jumped up to like 300 viewers on the live stream because I scheduled it and because YouTube saw that I scheduled it, and even though I was late by many hours, it still rewarded me, then I would continue to schedule. Otherwise, I personally don't like it because I can't stick to it. I'm bad at my job here as far as sticking to a schedule, and I knew that going in, but I figured I'd experiment with it. I have a decent amount of news, particularly considering how I decided to not even mention all of the games that got announced. I talked about that earlier 2 recordings ago, where I'm seeing a lot of games get announced and not a lot of games come out, and that kind of sucks. So like right now we're in a pretty dry point before E3, and then E3 is going to come out and we're going to get a bunch of announcements, and then we might very well have a dry spell again of main games. This in the turn. So I'd like to focus more on games that actually come out and actually have things. Games like Space Plan, which is a clicker that apparently ends and costs $3 and I don't think has any microtransactions. And so that's a game that is on my radar and on my wish list as far as games that I'd like to play. Moving on, Zynga has funded the University of Southern California to promote the study of social mobile games. This will be classes and lectures, they say. Now, on the face of it, as I was reading this article, that's USC, by the way, University of Southern California, I kind of was getting the thought that maybe they were trying to get some kind of research made and effectively just bribe somebody in the university into promoting social mobile gaming as saying it was good. Kind of like how the cigarette companies would pay researchers to say cigarettes were good for your health, how the sugar industry funded research to downplay how bad sugar is for you and upplay how bad fat is for you, both being pretty bad as far as I know. The bottled water companies of Coca-Cola mostly funds and has its own research laboratory that promotes the drinking of ridiculous amounts of water, which has led to some people becoming overhydrated, and a lot of the water and sports water, energy water drinks are actually terribly bad for you and full of salt. So there's a lot of corruption in researches, and that's why the general public needs to actually be more involved with looking at being critical of research studies. I'm not saying deny them or just assume that they're false, but if you it does behoove people to actually look at studies, see who funded it. Peer review is not as good as worldwide review, and that's really what our next generation of science, as far as I see it, needs to get to, is that instead of peer review being this article was reviewed by several other people who are also professors who also are subject to being potentially bribed or misled, or just will play politics and agree to things that they can't, that aren't scientifically correct. It's a lot harder to do something like that if it's everybody in the world can read and understand a published scientific article and determine whether they believe it's true or not. And that's asking a lot of society, but it's what we need to do. It's what Wikipedia really is about, is the idea of, instead of a dictionary being made by just a select group of elites, now you have Wikipedia where all of society, who has always theoretically been allowed to agree what words mean and what things are true and what things aren't. If there is any reality, it is the shared reality of all of society. That's what Wikipedia allows to do it, and certainly it has some problems, and certainly schools and the elites of and the gatekeepers of knowledge that have been around there often won't let you cite Wikipedia, but you can certainly cite the citations of Wikipedia, which is the right way to do it anyways. So, yeah, what am I talking about? I still feel like Zynga, to get back, wow, that was a long journey, a long meandering journey in my head there, that conversation. I still very much feel like they are intentionally trying to buy goodwill over the fact that they've gotten a lot of money through tricking a lot of kids to spend their parents' money. Zynga, I think, is Candy Crush. Zynga, maybe that's PopCat, but when I, in my mind, think of Zynga, I don't have good feelings with them, and I don't think they make good games. But I'll leave it at that and move on. The NVIDIA experience has updated to support Vulkan, which I think is AMD graphics cards, and OpenGL, which is the open source graphics card in broadcasting. What this by default means is that you can now use it to optimize Minecraft and stream Minecraft. So they were stuck before focusing. I'm gonna die, but whatever. We'll just keep doing things. They were stuck to only streaming DirectX games, and the NVIDIA Stream service, Shadowplay service, is really only for shadow playing to an NVIDIA Shield product, which is pretty old now, or an NVIDIA tablet, Shield tablet, which are different things. One is more of a cell phone on a controller, one where the Shield tablet is its own thing. I'm not getting victories here, so let's see if we can move on to something else. Combo 3 attack spell on casual. Just to change things up, even though I'm not changing from the rogue. I could try the warrior. So I still wouldn't really recommend people use Shadowplay or unless they have a Shield product, and I really wouldn't suggest that they have a Shield product either. But I do kind of suggest getting the GeForce experience, even though it requires you to log into an account now for no real reason, just so they can have your email. It makes a simplistic and easy way to hit one button and know what settings you have on your game will, if the game is supported, which not all games are supported. In fact, it's a relatively small amount, maybe medium amount of games are supported by Shield, and more may get expanded now. And every time I start a series, I spend way too much time fiddling with the video settings, graphic settings, and if I'm lucky, there's no other problem with the game that furthers that and makes it even more of a hassle. So I like the NVIDIA experience for that. Moving on, Mass Effect Andromeda has added a patch, even though Ubisoft, I think it's Ubisoft, I should have written that down, has shut down the company that made Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, it's kind of actually a separate thing, because the company that made Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't even the main company that it's not even the main company that made the other Mass Effect games. So this is an interesting turn of combos here. So Mass Effect has been put on hold, which has affected other companies versus, instead of just the Ubisoft Montreal office, I guess. So more Fallout, I guess, than I even realized. But they put out a patch and it fixes performances. But unfortunately, the bad news is it also lowers the free love ratio in the game. There was a couple scenarios where you could date multiple people, and they've lowered that, where you have to be more monogamous as far as dating.
Justice is mine.
This in the turn. There was also a glitch it fixed where you were getting emails and notices and all of that. Let me just reload my chat just in case somebody else came on there. Euro Truck Simulator 2 is getting double trailers / 18-wheelers. So I don't know if Euro Truck Simulator is the newest Euro Truck Simulator game, or if they just added an update to an older version. Payday 2 is getting VR support, which I think that was already announced, and crossplay with the original Payday 2, which has, I think, been out for a while. So that seems like good news, but when I think Payday 2, I'm pretty sure that game was laden with microtransactions and DLC, and they never really fixed it. So I unless I'm totally misremembering, I think Payday 2 is not a game they really play. I'm not sure how many people were going to consider playing it in the first place, but I think there was a decent amount of people that did want. They did like Payday 1, and then they were very disappointed with Payday 2. So take that as it is. I would certainly hold back before any of that happens, before I purchase it. I wouldn't pre-order it, and I'm not sure VR versions of being bank robbers is enough of an interesting thing. How am I gonna do this? I think I'm gonna lose. That's what I think I'm gonna do.
Justice is mine.
This guy's tough.
speaking of waiting for reviews, it seems like the reviews I'm hearing about Prey is kind of mediocre. It's not as bad as Dishonored 2 about being broken or anything, but there seems to be some people are having issue with its detailed 3D audio system, and a lot of people in general are just not enjoying the way they spec and they play the game. It feels like if you try to go the guns route, you never have enough bullets, and it's kind of irritating there. If you try to go the stealth route, the game is totally not designed for stealth. If you take certain upgrades, it seems like the game's not really balanced to set for that. It doesn't feel like there's an amazing story in it, at least so far. They, again, refuse to let any reviewers have that game early, which is now just standard policy for ZeniMax games. So that's Arcane Studios, that's Bethesda, that's creators of Doom, creators of Skyrim, and so it feels almost like there might be little bits of problems that if they had gotten more feedback from reviewers, they might have been able to address it. Let's try this. This isn't going to work at all, but we'll try it once. So I would kind of wait on Prey. It sounds like it's a game that is kind of worth playing, but not probably at the full price. It's not doing anything amazing. Personally, since I just recently played BioShock Infinite, and I feel like even if you had just played the remaster release of BioShock 1 right when it came out and not played BioShock 2's remaster, or gone back and played BioShock Infinite, which didn't get a remaster like me, I still feel like you've probably had enough of that experience. Also, if you play Prey now, you might very well be just satisfying the urge to play a Shock style game right when the System Shock game might come out. So whenever System Shock comes out, you might be like, well, I've had enough, and hopefully System Shock will be a little bit better. So that's it. Now, it is arguable that maybe because Prey didn't give any of the reviewers early access, they are simply just trying to lower enthusiasm for it and lower the sales. But the video game review sites, I mean, might be doing that. But frankly, if they were going to do that, they're overestimating how much they affect sales, and it would have to be a really coordinated effort in which all the video game sites that work together and talk to each other decided we're just not going to review this game at all. I mean, because I think reviewing the game and giving it a bad review is probably still giving it more advertising. So in general, if they were just changing their reviews because they didn't get early access, that would be inappropriate on their part, and I don't think that's really the case, because I've seen footage myself of Prey, and even the mimic idea of things turning into other things and you getting the abilities eventually to turn into other things that they were pushing so hard doesn't really seem like it's a good system. And see, now I'm having internet connection trouble, and I have no reason or idea why this would be the case. Finally. Maybe it's on my part, maybe it's not. Moving on with the news, a team of 16 students from SMU Guildhall, which is apparently SMU Guildhall, seems to be like a degree program for the college in Dallas called SMU have been hired by Gearbox when they graduate in May for research and development in a new avant-garde VR game when they graduate. The fact that it's called a new avant-garde game, I can pretty much tell you exactly what they're working on, because it's Desert Bus version 2, almost certainly. So they've hired 16 students to make a game that's not really a game in VR, and they're going to do research and development in the sense that they're going to probably do a lot of work in the radio on the Desert Bus, because they're going to I know Penn Jillette, which this was Penn and Teller's Desert Bus in the first place, has already asked people to submit long, boring speeches and conversations and class lectures. And what they're going to do is they're going to have the radio cut in and cut out. So you'll listen to a long, boring section of a class lecture, but they'll cut out any of the important information, so you're still not actually learn anything. Because the whole point is the game is supposed to be not fun. So that's probably the majority of what they're going to do. I don't know if they're actually going to pay somebody to 3D scan. It's supposed to be a trip from, I think, Reno to Las Vegas, which is just this desert road with nothing on it. I don't think they're going to, I'm not sure they're really going to pay somebody to have a, like, Google Cars map out that section. Which is something I kind of wish they would do. But I know that Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox, has already bought a bus, a beat-up bus that's supposed to be the same bus from the original Desert Bus, and they're going to 3D scan that whole thing and get all of that. There's no real story in the game or anything like that. That would be right past the point, but it is going to be in VR. So these students are kind of in for a nightmare. But they're hired out of college and they're working for Gearbox, so that'll look good on their resume, but I don't think they're gonna get to do the most interesting work. Maybe at some point they'll touch upon working on Borderlands 3, maybe a little bit. Maybe if they finish Desert Bus 2.0 really, really fast and they don't just get fired, they'll be allowed to do that, to maybe make a VR component to Borderlands 3, which I don't know how that specifically would work. I almost feel like that would cause more trouble than it's worth. You could probably do a side companion or something with Borderlands 3 and just say and decide to like have a standing shooting gallery VR component of Borderlands 3, but not actually in the main game. That's about all I can think, because there's too much running in Borderlands to do it in VR. It just wouldn't be Borderlands that way. One of the things that is slightly interesting is because this is a college in Dallas, SMU stands for the Southern Methodist University. Southern Methodist University is a non-secular college established by the Methodist Church. Methodist being a branch of Protestant Christians. So you kind of are gonna get that, and that's slightly odd that a somewhat religious school is hiring its employees out to play a pretty unreligious company, in the sense that Borderlands was slightly offensive in some spots. depending on how conservative you really are. That being said, it's not unheard of for students to go to religious schools, particularly non-religious school. It's not really religious school, but it was established by a church organization. So, but they certainly went through a lot of works. I had to click 5 different links to find out what SMU stood for, because it was not in the main article. It was not on the website for SMU Guildhouse. I had to go to SMU Guildhouse, scroll down to the bottom where it said SMU. Then I had to go from SMU to click to the About Us page of it, just to find out it stood for Southern Methodist University. And that's odd in comparison, because SCU was in a different story, where Zynga gave money to SCU, and they right in the article said that was Southern California University. Alright, well, it's been another 30 minutes, I think. Maybe 25 minutes. So, yeah, let's go one more game. Let's go one more quick game. And we'll try this. Vanquish is coming to PC. I'm trying to rush through and hit this now. To the surprise of no one. It's coming this month, though. And that's kind of quick, I think. If Platinum Games' intention was just to put out games that they hadn't put out on PC, why put out Bayonetta this quickly? Like, why put out Bayonetta after the April Fool's Day joke? That makes sense. But then why put out Vanquish to kind of buy into your own sales of it? Like, why not put a couple months there? It slightly scares me that maybe Platinum Games is low on money and they're pulling out all the tricks to get money. Job's done. And that would kind of stop me. But that's just speculation on my part. Next story, a keylogger effectively was discovered in the audio drivers of several HP laptops. It doesn't really do anything nefarious, but it's bad programming. So on a laptop you might hit a function key and then another key to turn the volume up or turn your volume down or mute it or make it maximum. So you'd have those shortcut keys. And instead of doing it the appropriate way, which is more secure, they just put a program in the driver that's always running, always looking at every single key you pressed to trigger when it sees those function keys. And that's not the right way to do that. Because there's already in Windows versions of that. I think if you hit Windows Plus, I think you turn up the volume. I could be wrong. I haven't used it possibly ever, but so there's a registry edit you can do to make it crash until there's a new version of it that fixes that and makes it still work. But I would certainly look into that if you have an HP laptop. HP gets certainly points deducted as a or for quality products and now, but all of these companies end up doing something crazy like this. Dell, HP, Alienware is owned by Dell, so they've probably done some of that, something every bad now that's been bad in the past. You just kind of have to keep your eye out for it. But this was a pretty bad one. The Steam Link right now is on sale for $20. Unfortunately, it's not hackable as far as I can tell. Let me know in the comments if you've seen somewhere that says you could put on like a different version of Linux on it, or in any other way potentially do something with it, because by itself as a $20 box that you can stream your main family PC to your computer. It's sort of a deal, but only really for that. And then you still gotta buy a controller. So unless you have a spare USB, like Xbox 360, Xbox One controller, maybe you could plug in a PlayStation 4 receiver. I would hope you could plug in an Xbox PC receiver.
Get behind
But I'm not certain that any of those are actually true. Otherwise, you're going to have to buy the Steam controller. And since the audio is only through the HDMI, if you want to use headphones, you have to go add more things. And even at $20, it's still really a $50 device unless you have spare controllers to plug into it. It also kind of lacks any streaming ability, so you can go to like Netflix website to stream and Hulu's website and all that should work, but no guarantees it always will. In some ways this might actually be a better system because if you don't have a top of the line like Roku where you have some assurances that the apps will update, I wouldn't be surprised if like the Netflix app on the 360 probably hasn't been as updated as it could have been. I watched Netflix on the PS3 and it's still updating, but I don't know how long it will continue to do that. Speaking of doing things bad on computers, Windows 10's fall update is planning to add a fluent design, and I can guarantee you everyone will hate it. Like, all people want on their operating system is to be able to use it easily and efficiently. And the last thing people want is for you to change things. Windows 3.1 was the best Windows. Quite literal. Like, a fluent and efficient interface, then certainly, alright, maybe Windows 95 or Windows 98 was the best version of Windows, but beyond just a basically acceptable appearance, you don't need to constantly redesign things. Copy of friendly minions' attack and health. Which would be better here? Job's done. Google has acquired the job simulator developers, Alchemy, spelled OWLCHEMY Labs. They say their focus is going to stay the same, making games. I don't really believe it. Making VR games for Google doesn't seem right at all. Moving on, a Dark Souls mouse fix has come out. It's a mouse fix mod that apparently improves playing Dark Souls on the PC quite a bit and makes it feel like an actual PC game. It has key binding and manual targeting, so I'm sure people will be interested in that. Steam now tells you why it recommends games to you, which I've found is sort of helpful because it points out to me that like games that I'm constantly getting suggested to, a lot of those are coming up from tags that I've either liked games or wishlist games from, or curators that I've followed. So it seems like a heavier influence on curating. Curators suggesting games than I realized the Discovery update was using. But I'm still very much having a problem of just constantly getting the same thing suggested to me over and over again. All three Dark Souls games have been turned into videos, movies on YouTube, 3 movies. Sounds like there's new voice acting and maybe slightly different writing. It's not really that good from what I saw of it, but it was certainly interesting nonetheless. Certainly blatantly copyright infringement. I could almost see an argument that it's fair use, but if it became fair use, you'd see so many movies come out in the theaters using video games as their engines to render the graphics, and I just don't want to see a world like that. So I'm gonna say it's not fair use. Blizzard has integrated MLG to form an exclusively Overwatch esports division. EA thinks 40% of console sales will be digital by the end of 2017, which is to say, if the consoles had launched all digital, at best they would have lost 60% of their sales. That is pretty bad. A UK charity called World Child has launched a hub to try to get more video games to convince more people to donate to it, I think. I don't think the hub has anything to do with anything else, any other, like, charities. And then the last thing, there was a presentation of Prey versus low quality versus medium quality versus high quality. As I was watching that, I really came to the idea that I felt like, honestly, that's not the real question. The real question should be, what is the average game experience visually and actual playback versus a realistic high-end experience? If you are going to have a below average game experience, it's because you already probably know your computer is underpowered for PC. So what is a average computer, whatever that is, how will the game play on that? And then what is a realistic high-end experience? So owning a $500 video card that's high-end and slightly faster CPUs and slightly more RAM and SSDs and all of that. It doesn't seem like, if you're going to have an extremely low experience, that really probably matters for people who would read an article like that comparing things. And people with an extremely high setup, that extremely high setup is just, I mean, that doesn't matter either because it's not relevant to enough people. And that covers my whiteboard with news. So we still have a decent number of victories I need to get. And I need to kind of not goof around here. So this is the call. If anybody wants to friend or play me online, they need to let me know in the comments pretty quickly. Otherwise, this is going to be it for the for my recorded sections, and I'm just going to play mostly in silence unless somebody wants to chat or talk past this point. So stay tuned if you're watching live. Everyone else, as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.